Alison and welcome to Solicited Advice, the podcast where I get to do what I love most, give advice. Each week, I'm joined by a very special guest and several very special advice seekers as we do our best to solve all of, or at least one of, your problems. Today's very special guest for our very special Thanksgiving episode is Amiel Stanek. Amiel and I met, 10 years ago. I don't know why that feels important every time you introduce a person. Like, we became friends. It's like, who cares? Amiel and I worked together at Bon Appetit, where we met like maybe 10 years ago. And very quickly, I realized he was one of those people that I was like, oh, you're my food person. Like he's also one of my people, but food person specifically, in that like we think about food very similarly. We talk about food very similarly. We obsess over it very similarly. We have different tastes, but at the end of the day, we're like equally dedicated to it. He's a brilliant writer, a wonderful editor, a terrific friend, a great roommate. We lived together during the pandemic. And I am so thrilled to be able to talk about Thanksgiving with him. I am so happy to have you on this podcast. And when I was like, oh, we should definitely do a Thanksgiving episode, you were the only person I wanted to do it with. You're my favorite person to talk about food and cooking with.
I thought you were going to say
down.
You were my second choice, but like
you were a strong third, but other people were booked.
Well, I'm very happy to be here.
No, like I love cooking with you. I love talking about cooking with you. I love your opinions. I love your thoughts. You have like
shucks.
A similar but decidedly different perspective than me, which always makes me feel like I'm like considering something new or learning something when we talk about cooking.
Well, I feel like you and I are like able to like coexist with a certain kind of like, there's like a certain special way that we're able to coexist in the kitchen, I feel like we both like, we also like kind of like came up at like together in like cooking, at a certain like important moment in our lives. And I feel like we both know how to have opinions about food.
God, do we love an opinion?
And also know that those opinions are kind of like just a thing that we do to ourselves. We like have them because we have to have them.
Yeah, but also like right, and respect the person even when we disagree with the opinion.
Yes.
I think chief among them, to me, most like the hallmark case of that would be the crispy gonzagi, which is that you enjoy it, I hate it, and like that said, I still think you have impeccable taste.
Likewise.
It's just sometimes not my taste.
No, and I know that I'm
to each their own.
I'm always going to want my food wetter than you like your food.
Yeah. You love sauce. Boy, do you love sauce.
Wet food. I'm a wet food guy,
How do you, but you can't cut wet food. You can't hold wet food. It's difficult to eat. Like.
That's your thing about all of your things, is that it's like, it's not that you don't like the thing. It's just that you have very particular feelings about the thing. It's like you will eat a sandwich, but it's just.
Of course, you've seen me.
I've seen it with my own two eyes, but it's just like a particular, you're looking for a particular kind of sandwich.
Yeah. And a segue that I didn't see coming, because I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but food touching is a really sensitive issue with Thanksgiving, because I think when you're making your plate, there are two schools of thought. Are you like loading up and being like, I'm making one trip, everything's going to be on the plate, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to enjoy myself? Or are you like, I'm going to sort of course myself out. I'm going to like make sure the foods are evenly spaced.
Are you crazy?
Well, I don't mean like we're at like Le Bernardin.
You're like, I'm going to enjoy my mashed potato course now.
I've never been to Le Bernardin. But
we should go.
It's like, yeah, we shouldn't we go?
Double date.
That would be nice.
That
Get the tuna
fun.
shaped like the tuna. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
Shaped like the fish. Oh, yeah. Also shaped like that.
I don't know if it's shaped like the fish. It's supposed to be shaped like the fish, because that's not what I see when I see the tuna.
In my brain,
oh my God,
it absolutely was the body of a fish with the tail of a fish, like a Jesus fish. But you're totally right, and that is not the shape. The shape. If you're curious, please Google Le Bernardin tuna.
Honey, that is not
and
the shape.
See what we're talking about with your own eyes. This is a family show, so
that's
we're
like
keep
some
it.
Rorschach shit.
I know. I wouldn't be able to unsee it. That's like anytime I've ever photographed a sweet potato, I'm like, I can't unsee it.
What do you see in the sweet potato?
The same thing I see when I look at the Le Bernardin tuna dish.
Sorry, you're talking about like a cooked like sweet potato.
Yeah, I'm talking like a baked sweet potato that like you split down the middle, fill with butter and honey or whatever the fuck.
No, I know. What I was imagining was like a raw, just a raw tuber, like sitting on the counter.
Category.
And I'm like, what are you seeing there?
No. And honestly, it's informed like my recipe development in that, like, because I know that the recipe I'm developing has to be photographed. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I don't really cook with or eat sweet potatoes that often, but like, I'm like, we're going to cut it into coins. We're going to smash it. We're going to roast then smash. We're going to do other things to it than treat it like in its most simple form, which is parted down the middle and filled with stuff. It's a different shape than an Idaho, is all I'm saying.
It is it's a different thing. But to the Thanksgiving plates.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Coursing.
Exactly.
No, my Thanksgiving plate would be disgusting to you. It is everything all at once. It is like to the edges. It is like everything is touching everything else. Because Are you
gravy everywhere?
No, I'm not gravy everywhere. I am gravy. I think I'm really only gravy on the turkey. Because also in my family, the mashed potatoes are not really gravy mashed potatoes because it's my dad's mashed potatoes that have sour cream and cottage cheese in them. And so they're kind of like, I mean, it's not that they're not good with gravy, but it's not the like blank canvas, like Pom's puree with the well in the middle with like all of the gravy in it, you know? But I feel like because of what I'm doing to my plate, it's like the fun of it is like all of the different bites in every possible combination of things. You know, it's like
what an adventure for you.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm especially excited about this episode because I do like a Thanksgiving hotline every year on Instagram, and it feels so ephemeral. It feels so fleeting. It feels too short. And even when you save the story to highlights, a phrase I can't believe I just uttered aloud and as a 38-year-old woman, I did. I'm like, I want this information to live louder, to live longer, to like, let's talk about it. And I do it in home movies as well. Like there's a Thanksgiving episode, of course, which has already come out by the time this episode's come out. So hopefully you've already watched it like 5 times. But the whole impetus for that too is like, I'm here to answer the questions because I'm like, one day I'm going to answer all the Thanksgiving questions and like everyone's going to know. And yet every year it's more questions and the same questions. Mm-hmm. So like I could do a podcast that's just Thanksgiving questions like year round. Like, the Christmas stores that are like, we're a Christmas store 365.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, why?
But don't you think, isn't part of, I mean, I don't know, to me, as somebody who has also spent a large chunk of my adult life answering people's Thanksgiving questions, like, the answer, like, the questions are the same, but sometimes the answers become different as like, you get tired of the old answer. You're like, you know what?
Oh my God.
You don't need to make rolls. Just buy rolls. Or like whatever, a bad example. But like whatever the thing is, it's like as you evolve as an advice giver, the advice, it changes. It has a slightly different flavor every year. So I don't think, Alison, you're ever going to answer all of the questions or be able to like, dust your, I don't know what, brush it off, wash your hands.
Detective. I don't know.
You won't be able to wash your hands of the responsibility that you have to answer people's questions. Because
nor do I want to. Yeah. I always want this job. I want to always have it. And even if I have to answer the same questions, but you're totally right. And there was one in particular that sticks out as like a question that I've always answered the same every year. And this year I changed my answer.
What is it?
It's actually 2 questions related to the same dish. Ooh. And it's about mashed potatoes, which again, I know that I've had your dad's mashed potatoes through you and they're phenomenal. And like, honestly, like my preference for mashed potatoes, like in style and flavor. But for like classic, whatever gravy style, it's like, do you need a rice or do you need a this? Do you need a that? And I'm always like, no, because I don't believe in a smooth, like Pom puree. Like that's not what we're making. We're making mashed potatoes. It should have texture. It should have lumps. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, guys. This year, I'm trying a ricer. I'm going to do it. Are you happy now? And I did it. And I did not think it was necessary. I was like, this is a waste of my time, a waste of my money, a waste of the counter space. No one needs to do this. Does it work? Sure, I guess. But like, does a wooden spoon work if you cook the potato properly?
Wait, so your answer changed? Your answer didn't change.
My answer didn't change. My answer my approach changed in that, like, maybe I'm missing out on something. Maybe my mashed potatoes could be creamier, could be smoother, could be more lump free, could be easier if I just used a ricer.
Right.
No. The answer is no. So I guess my answer didn't change. My approach changed, but my answer did change for, can you make the mashed potatoes ahead? I was always like, no, just make them the day of. Make them the day of, keep them warm on the back burner, and serve them when you're ready. People are obsessed with the idea of wanting or needing to make mashed potatoes, quote, ahead, like a day ahead, 2 days ahead. And then finally I was like, do whatever you want. Like, who cares? So I made mine a day ahead, and I was like, and then the next day I just reheated them. Were they as good as they were the second I made them? No, frankly. Were they still really great? Yes.
Yeah,
who cares?
That's such a weird one. Like, you can make
it's so weird.
So many things ahead. And the mashed potato, I mean, also just like in my family, and I think a lot of it has to do with people doing these Thanksgivings where like everybody's traveling from near and far bringing a dish, you know? I think that's where that comes from. I don't think it's like, how can I figure out? And I think they're like, well, my job is to make the mashed potatoes, and I'm going over to my parents' house, and it's just like, just make the mashed potatoes at the house. It's not. It's as somebody who grew up in a household where it's like we cook as the hosts, we cook all of the food, and like a few people, like somebody brings like an appetizer, somebody brings like a pie, but by and large we're making everything. The mashed potatoes, we are like boiling the mashed potatoes at like 5. The potatoes for the mashed potatoes at like 5. Like, it's like the turkey is like about to come out of the oven, and it's like the water's on, the potatoes are there, and you just turn it on, and then they get mashed last minute. It just doesn't seem like it's not that big of a deal.
That's the thing that I struggle with most, because I realize that, like, as a person also who doesn't have children, who doesn't have like time constraints in the same way, like, I'm sure once I do and my family changes, like, I will be like, oh, you know what? I used to do it this way, but I don't have time for that anymore. But as a person who like doesn't have as much to consider, the do ahead has never crossed my mind, and I have the most difficult time relating to that. Yeah. But this year I did try to like take that more into consideration. But anyway, we have so much to. I'm not kidding. We could do 5 episodes, and this one's just on mashed potatoes. Well, on that note, I think it's time to take our live callers. Thrilled to welcome Lindsay to the show. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Lindsay.
Great to meet you guys. I'm a little starstruck, to be honest.
Oh no, it's just just us in our gray and white apparel. Cool. Here to answer your Thanksgiving questions. How can we help?
Okay. So my husband and I are traveling to be with his family, and my parents are actually coming too. And we thought, as a surprise, we would schedule a family photo shoot. We've never really done this before, but it's something that I thought would be cute. We have a 15-month-old, so the grandparents are obsessed with her, and I thought it'd be a fun memory. The problem or question is that my sister-in-law is coming, who I'm very close with and love, but her boyfriend is also joining us this time. It's been sort of like on and off for a long time, so we know him, but not sure if it's right for him to be in the photo, but not really sure how to approach it. I don't know that he necessarily would want to be in it, but at the same time, it feels weird to exclude him, but also weird to include him.
What's the vibe? Do you guys get along? Like, do people like him, or like what's the issue here? Like, is it
he's not our favorite, to be honest. If I'm
okay, and you're like, you might break up again.
Yeah, I think that, like, they live together now, so we might be in it for the long haul. But it's just sort of like a weird thing where I feel like it's for the grandparents, but
My question is, if it was like, all right, family photo time, is this boyfriend going to be is he the kind of guy who's like, oh, that means me? Like, does he think of himself as part of the family, or would he be a little like, oh, no, you guys should take the photo, like, it's...
I kind of think he'd be the latter, where, like, he's like a little, like, aloof, not much of a joiner in that sense, where, like...
We hate him. Mm-hmm. They gotta break up.
So...
Get her on the pod.
Yeah, I know. Let's call her right now. But yeah, so, and I'm sure, like, maybe there's a way that we can talk to the photographer too, to be like, let's do a bunch of different options, but I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, especially my sister-in-law, so.
Yeah, I would say that's the easiest and like path of least resistance, where it's like, Thanksgiving is unfortunately about sometimes doing things you don't want to with people you don't necessarily love, which is the opposite of how most people would describe Thanksgiving. They're like, Thanksgiving's about being together with the people that you love. And I'm like, Thanksgiving's about doing things you don't want to do with people you hate. No, but like
Thanksgiving
that
is a dentist appointment.
Yeah, exactly. At the DMV. But no, there is a bit of that like give and take where you're like, it's the holiday. Like we're stuck here. Like this is our reality.
Right.
So I think like in the event that I've been in this type of position, not with family, but like with a party or an event or something, and you're trying to like get the photo of the people that you want the photo to be of, you say like, okay, let's take a photo and then let's just get you two and then you two. And like, kind of make it easy, especially if like you're not being charged per photo. I'm sure it's like an hourly rate.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll solve the problem for you. Yeah, but we got like a lot of messages, voicemails, and questions about this sort of very thing to varying degrees of like, how do we do this thing when I don't like this person that's either coming or who's hosting, or we're not sure if they should be invited. Like this holiday tends to bring up so much of that, and sort of irregardless of what I just said about Thanksgiving being about doing things you don't want to do with people you don't like. I do think it's like best to sort of approach it like, if my sister-in-law loves this person and I love my sister-in-law, let's get a photo with us all together. Let's also just make sure we get one without in case they break up again.
Just in case. Fix it in post.
And I mean, I guess also I feel like there is something special about the fact that like every Thanksgiving is a little bit different. You know, even when you have like, it's like you might cook the same food every year, or have like, or something close to the same food every year, or have like something close to the same group of people every year. So I do feel like there's something about like when I look back on photos, like when I was a kid, my uncle there was a period of time he like always brought a different girlfriend, and it was like kind of
nice.
And it was, I mean, that's my memory of it. It was actually in reality probably like 2 or 3 different people over like 10 years, but to me it was like, oh, it's Monica, oh, it's like a different person. And like looking at photos, you're kind of like, oh, remember when?
Right.
You know, like it wasn't like, oh, this is like a stain on this family photo.
Totally.
It's like, it was kind
Monica
of like
ruining everything again.
Monica was cool. I mean, I like my aunt, his wife now so much more, but it is kind of this like time capsule also. So it's like, I guess I would say like, what Alison said, get a lot of options.
Sure.
But if it's like ends up being like the one photo where everybody's smiling is with like this guy, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Yeah.
We'll make it through.
Not to make this about me, but someone recently said to me, this is our wedding, not a photo shoot. And in a similar, it was at our wedding. And it was my husband who said that. Cause I was like, the photos need to be like this and they need to be perfect. And this needs to be like that. And he's like, it's not a photo shoot. And he's like, it's our wedding. It's like and I'm like, okay, reframe to like more align with what Amiel just said. We're like, this is a snapshot in time.
Right.
This is where we are today. This is what the weather looked like. This is who was there. This is what you looked like. This is what you wore. Like,
it doesn't have to be perfect.
Correct. Exactly. So I feel like there is a bit of that you can incorporate. But yes, I think that like being like this isn't going to be like, like we don't know who's coming, who's going. And this is who was there this year. What a nice little family album.
Cool. No, I think that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, we hope that was helpful and good luck. And let's hope that they solve the problem for themselves.
Yeah, they might. We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about looking at our wedding photos recently. Not you and me, but Lauren and my wedding photos.
No, we did not get married, famously.
We did not get married. This is my
because it was your
ex-wife,
anniversary.
Allison. Yeah.
5 years?
5 years, yeah. And it was so funny because it's like there are, as happens, there were so many people who were there who are like not necessarily even in my life anymore. And like people, like there's like a great shot of like my friend and his girlfriend, and she's like drinking champagne from the bottle, and like they broke up like 4 years ago. and I haven't seen her since. She's wonderful, but I'm like,
Yeah.
we'll always look at that. Like, it's like one of the best photos from the wedding. And I'll always be like, oh, Amara. So
Yeah.
I miss Amara, you know?
Yeah.
Or
That's
like,
nice.
you know, somebody that like, you're like, wow, I'm really glad that they broke up because like, never have to see
Yeah,
them
it wasn't the
again.
best for the photo. The photo's great, but it was the best for them that they split up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. As a person who grew up in like an extremely socially transient way, like my mom always had new friends, new lovers, new people, new aunts, new uncle. You know, it's like, oh, your uncle, whoever. And like when you're little, everyone's your uncle and aunt.
Right.
I don't know these people anymore. But like I look
Right.
at photos of my
Yeah.
youth and I'm like, oh yeah, we spent Christmas with these people. But so I don't know. I think maybe I'm like less attached to that. And I think that that's also really personal to be like, this family photo feels really sacred and important. And like having this person in there would ruin it. It's kind of like, okay, we'll take the photo and then take another version. And then, you know, whatever. That was a good, like dipping our toe into family etiquette Thanksgiving. Let's take our next caller. Okay, let's welcome to the show, Claire.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Hi, Claire.
How can we help you?
I had a question for you guys. I lost my parents a little bit ago, and my siblings and I all cook, just kind of to remember them and feel close to them. And we have a few recipes that our mom left, and they're parts of recipes. They're kind of partial. We have some chicken scratch, but we can't quite get. They're not what they used to be, and so I was curious if you had any like quick and dirty like recipe testing. Just like tips for when you're trying to recreate something that, you know, you used to have, or, you know, trying to get something back to what it was.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, by the way. That is
I
awful.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad always submits a question when I ask people to. And he wrote that he didn't have a question. He just wanted to say thank you for, after my grandfather passed away, Thanksgiving was his favorite holiday. I like made the meal. And he's like, that's my favorite memory, blah, 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 blah. And so I guess like the quick answer would be like, I understand the desire to get it exactly how it was. But I think that's like the beauty of cooking is that it really is so personal to that person that even like attempting to come close is really special. But also like it may never be the same. So I would more focus on it being yours or your family's, your siblings or whatever, and sort of like using it as a stepping stone rather than trying to like get to a place that might just not be possible. Like not in a negative way.
Well, I also think that the beautiful thing about Thanksgiving, and I think this is like definitely a thing that Alison and I think about a lot, like working in food for as long as we have, and like Thanksgiving is not just one day, it's like all of these days leading up to it and all of this planning and testing and tweaking. But I think the beauty of it is that it is iterative. You know, you're like, you have the opportunity every year to work on those recipes and to perfect them. And, you know, that is like this space of memory making and remembering. And even if something isn't exactly how you remember it, you get to like, at least you get to experience that kind of tension between like what you're eating and what you remember, and think about how you're going to do it differently next year. I mean, I think also to your question, like a lot of the recipe testing stuff is not necessarily like super practical to do. I mean, if you're like, like, are you going to like on a Saturday make 3 versions of mashed potatoes, isolating like one variable each time and seeing like what, I mean, you certainly can do that.
Amiel might, but I'm not. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to avoid. Yeah.
Or is there like a specific recipe that you've been like futzing around with and you're having a hard time getting right?
Yeah, I think all of us are really chasing stuffing. That was, I think, all of us really liked that one. And my sister kind of got close last year. And so, yeah, I think we're doing something similar where like every year we're probably getting a little bit closer. But
are you like, it's not flavorful enough, or it's like missing a seasoning, or the texture's wrong? Like where are you at?
I feel like it's missing a seasoning. I feel like we're just, there's I think the texture's fine. it looks really similar, yeah, but I think we're just like missing something that she likely didn't write down, or like an amount is wrong.
What's the vibe of the stuffing? Like, can you describe it a little bit?
It's so there's sausage in it. It's not super wet. And there's definitely like crispy bits. There's the veggies are still like a little bit crunchy, like the celery and stuff still have a little bit of crunch to them. So texture wise, I feel like it's pretty, like, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the like really custardy, like small, like wet sort of stuffing.
What kind of bread are we working with?
I'm trying to remember. I haven't looked at it yet this year, so I haven't taken a look. But I want to say maybe it's a sourdough, but I'm not super sure.
You know, if I had to, and what's the last question is, what is the like? Are you using like canned or like boxed chicken stock, or are you using like homemade turkey stock?
It's boxed.
It's boxed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was she doing boxed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like big Costco.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough to know. It's tough to reverse engineer without trying it ourselves. That becomes tricky. But I will say, like, if it's like if you're pretty sure that the ingredients are there, if you're like, okay, I know it's these things, like, my instinct is like, the onions aren't being cooked long enough, or like there's like a step where flavor isn't being developed enough. But I think that, like, more often than not, when food doesn't taste the way you remember and all the ingredients are the same, it's like, oh, I cut the onion too big, or I didn't cut the onion small enough, or there's like one small thing that does make a really huge difference. And also, I think for stuffing especially, it's type of bread, and then in this case also type of sausage. But if you're like, I know this is the bread, I know this is the sausage, it's box stock, it's whatever, like, there's a way to, like, maybe if the way that the recipes are written, is there like a time instruction portion, or is it mostly just ingredients?
No, so we have part of it, and there isn't like a lot of how to. So it's a lot of just ingredients, and then the ingredients that she's added are kind of like penciled in on the side, and in true like mom form, there really aren't like measurements.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's also where we're playing around with like amounts of things as well.
Yeah. I think like it's also part of a fun tradition to like try to crack this code every year, and almost thinking of it as like a thing that isn't really attainable, but like attempting to come close every year is part of the tradition of like, here we go again. Like, I don't think you need to turn your house into a test kitchen. I can't recommend that. But just being like, we're going to make it this year. It's going to be great. It's not going to be the same, but we're going to come close. And like, oh, actually last year was much closer, and somebody else disagrees with you, and they're like, wait, no, this year's closer. And like, I don't know. It's like you're creating this own tradition. And in doing that, I think like remembering your mom in this really beautiful way, and like making, you know, it's kind of like a way of communicating with her in her absence, rather than being like, well, we've nailed it and now it's time to move on. It's like kind of like an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to think about it, yeah.
I will say also, and this is like slightly nerdier, I
You're
think
like,
that,
back
like,
to the boxed stock.
No, I was going to say, like, I think that everything that Alison said, and I think that also it's good to keep a record of like what you did do, you know, like in making it. And like, I wish I was better at this, but sometimes I have like a note on my phone or like a Google Doc or something where I'm like, you write down what you did do this year. You know, it's like, oh, we used Jimmy Dean stuffing, and we used like the low sodium chicken stock, and, you know, some amounts, just because, you know, a whole year passes and then you're like, wait, what did we do
what
last
did I
year?
do?
Which bread did we use? And I don't think you need to get like super technical about it and like weigh everything out in grams or anything, but I think it's good to like at least have that frame of reference if you are kind of wanting every year to get a little bit closer to that. It's good to at least remember what you did last year, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea, thanks.
And I think also that's like how a lot of our recipes come to be, generally speaking, where it's like these are based off this thing that I had this one time, or that was in my family forever. I had a similar thing with like my grandpa's dilly rolls. I have no idea what they really tasted like because the last time I had them, I was like 8 years old. But I remember them tasting like amazing. Like I remember them being wonderful. That's my only real memory. And I remember the first time I made it, I was like, I don't think this is right. But I couldn't really figure out why because my memory was like not as good, obviously. But I ended up working towards something that I liked. And I'm sure it's different. And I'm sure the recipe is different. I'm sure, there's like a secret ingredient or a step missing or something. But that's kind of like also how a new thing is born or how something evolves, but like is rooted in family or history or another person's story. And I think that's how a lot of recipes come to be, like in existence.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Claire, thank you so much. I think it's really beautiful that you are continuing that tradition. And I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself to make it perfect because the fact that you're doing it at all, I feel like is the point. That is the thing. That is the end goal. And life's a journey. Stuffing is really a journey.
Stuffing is.
It's just it's the best part. So you gotta, yeah.
I know. And you know, one final parting word is that I don't really believe one pan of stuffing is enough. And so I do think that if you're like, I'm going to make my version of mom's stuffing and someone else is going to make their version, you can kind of treat that as like a ritual too, of like we're all trying to get close, and like I like the texture of yours, I like the flavor of mine, how do we get closer next year? Like that's fun. And I think like also collaborative, and then you can always ensure that you have 2 pans of stuffing.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
That is sound advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for calling, Claire. We hope you have a beautiful holiday.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks for having me.
Claire.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Solicited Advice is presented by Maker's Mark. When you think of Maker's Mark, you probably think of smooth, delicious bourbon, obviously. But you probably also think of that iconic red wax topped bottle. And now, thanks to the Maker's Mark personalized label program, you can create a bottle that's even more iconic because it will be all yours. The Maker's Mark label program allows you to gift a personalized label to anyone special in your life. Your best friend, your dog walker, your in-laws, yourself. And the best part, the label is personalized for free. We love that. The holidays are upon us, and this is the perfect gift for the bourbon lover in your life, present and future. Head to makersmarkpersonalized.com, select from the list of label themes like holiday, thank you, or just because, and personalize the label with a name. Go to makersmarkpersonalized.com to order your personalized label today. Must be 21 or older. Labels currently available for 750 milliliter bottles only. Bottle must be purchased separately. Maker's Mark makes their bourbon carefully, so please enjoy it that way. Maker's Mark Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 45% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2023, Maker's Mark Distillery Incorporated, Loretto, Kentucky. Thank you to my friends at Fresh Direct for sponsoring this week's episode of Solicited Advice. I love Fresh Direct. I love Fresh Direct so much that I think people think I'm doing an ad for Fresh Direct, even when I'm not. This is an ad for Fresh Direct, but I would gladly do it, scream about them, talk about them, even if it weren't, because they make my life so much easier. They deliver groceries to me for just about every single thing, whether I'm hosting dinner parties or doing a photo shoot or filming home movies. This year, during our Thanksgiving Spectacular, which you can watch right now on YouTube, they actually were able to provide me with every single thing I needed for the menu that I made. And that wasn't even intentional. It just happened to be that they have an excellent selection with brands that I love and really good vegetables and produce from nearby farms. It's sort of the best of every world. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Fresh Direct. Let's just put it that way. And if you watch that video on YouTube and you're like, God, I need to have it. I must have this menu. This could be my Thanksgiving. I have great news. You can go to a special URL, which you can find in the comment section on the YouTube video or my newsletter. Click on it and it will take you to a beautiful website that has every single recipe and every single ingredient that you can add to cart and have those groceries delivered right to your door, which honestly, what could be better? Fresh Direct, you're my hero. That was really sweet. And I feel like there's so much pressure around the holidays when people are like, this person's not here anymore for a number of reasons, and I have to recreate the thing that they contributed.
Totally. Where my head kept on going was like, there's a secret ingredient, and it's not like it's embedded in, it's already in there. Like, it's like, It's actually, we were starting with like Pepperidge Farm, like box stuffing mix and adding a little bit more of everything to it. Or like, you know, I feel like so many of my kind of like taste memories from like family events and things like that, you're like, oh, that, not my dad, because he's very like from scratch, you know, but like, you know, something that my aunt brought, like her carrot cake or something, I'm like, definitely it was just like boxed carrot cake mix. And if I tried to make it from scratch, it wouldn't taste the same. Or like the cream cheese frosting was like actually just like Duncan Hines or something. You know, like I feel like a lot of those like really hard to place flavors are just like on a long list of things at the back of a box or something.
Yeah, or like the person is like me and forgets to write something down. Or they're like, oh yeah, fuck, there is a little white wine in there.
Yes.
Or I didn't have white wine, so this one time I made it with vinegar and water, and we actually preferred it, but I never changed the recipe because it was, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
things are happening fast and loose in that kitchen. People are moving with the spirit of their senses. It's a feeling-based activity.
You know, in the tradition of like writing recipes down for like home use, like you're only writing down the things that you're not going to remember. You know what I mean? Like if it's like if it's a reference for you, you're like, you're always going to remember that you did the like vinegar and water swap that one time, but you might not remember like how many onions you put in it, you know?
Right. How many times have you actually written down a recipe, not for work, for your own personal home cook usage?
You know, I do have like a note on my phone that is kind of like, it's not for work, but it's like last year I was on this tip where I was making split pea soup like 3 times a month. And I was kind of like, each time was a little like, I wasn't like trying to make a perfect recipe, but kind of like remembering, like one of the things that I like focused in on was like, I need to remember the right amount of water to add at the beginning, because that was like kind of crucial, like it not being too thick. Like I like my split pea soup like a little gruel like you should want to eat 2 bowls rather than 1. It's not like mashed potato texture. And so like I was kind of, every time I would do it, I would like adjust a little bit, or like, oh, well, I used like a ham hock this time instead of like, you know, and then I used bacon this time. And, you know, so there are times I don't write down formal recipes, but I do take certain notes. And like, again, I'm like I'm writing down the things that I need to remember, not the like rest of the things that feel like, I know I'm going to put like a few ribs of celery. I'm going to put a few carrots. I'm going to put, you know, so it's not formal.
I'd love to compare with you.
Our split pea soup recipes.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure you haven't looked, but do you know my secret vegetable that's in my split pea soup?
No, I don't.
There's one unsuspecting vegetable in my split pea soup that is like, I'm not saying it's brilliant. I'm saying it's genius.
Is it fennel?
No, I'm kidding. But it is cool, I think.
Is it fennel?
No.
No? Parsnips?
Mm-mm. Close, but no. In the same like weird family. Like in the same like...
Turnips?
No, close. It's the third in that category that I would, in my categorization brain. You never think of it. It's always at the grocery store. It doesn't matter what grocery store you're at. If you're at a Price Chopper, if you're at a Wegmans, if you're at a whatever, it's inexplicably always stocked. Like every grocery store has a giant case of them on display. And not one recipe has ever called for this ingredient. Like no one's cooking with this thing, but yet it's everywhere. And I was like, you know what? That ends today. I'm going to cook with it. I'm going to put it in my split pea soup.
What the fuck is it?
Because it was just the thing. It's a rutabaga.
Oh my God. That is weird.
I know. It acts like a potato in its starchiness. It gives the sweetness in place of a carrot, which obviously I'm not using. It is like not, but like it's doing a lot. It's doing all the things with like not that much flavor. It's like nice texture, a little bit of sweetness, vegetal body. It has like a nice, beautiful sort of orangey color. Like it's, I think the right tool for the right job.
I was imagining turnip because I feel like and rutabaga does this too, I think. It like makes the split pea soup like even fartier, you know, like in a good way. Like the thing about walking into the house where there's split pea soup cooking is that it like kind of smells like farts, and like in a way that is like somehow very comforting, you know? Like,
I find. Yeah.
You don't feel that way? You don't feel like it's kind of farty?
No.
But like when you're
No.
like the way that like when you're like steaming.
I mean,
broccoli,
listen.
you
Yeah,
know?
you're talking to me. I'm like more cabbage, more like beans,
Yes.
more like I queen of that. There is somebody who trolls me on YouTube. I don't know who they are. They need to get a fucking life. But every video they're like, "Where are the beans, fart queen?" I'm like, "Cool joke, you 12-year-old." I hope they are 12. Actually.
Is this a bad time to tell you that that's me? That's been me
I
this
know.
whole time.
I'm like, grow up. Like, how much energy would you have to spare to like consistently troll a person you've never met on YouTube?
I would
I've
love to
always
know who
wondered
this
this.
person is because it's definitely like it's
Me
actually
too.
somebody like in a suit, like in their like
Yeah.
you know, in like a corner office somewhere. It's like not like a teenager.
I don't think this
it's
person
like
has a job.
It's I know. I think it's like a weird. It's like a weird like fully grown person who is just like
I know.
YouTube is their outlet to like do that kind of thing. You know, they're like otherwise
Yeah.
really buttoned up, and they're just like have this like dirty little secret that they like comment on all of your YouTube videos and call
Grow
you a
up.
fart queen.
I mean, but that's like I know that's like the other thing. There's approximately one recipe, maybe two on like my 150 plus like catalog on the internet of like YouTube recipes. And like two of them use beans, and they're like, "Where are the beans?" Like, "Oh, no
Fart
beans this
queen.
week." It's like I did it twice. Like, what are you talking about? Like, whatever. I don't know. It's like also so reaching to be like that. To be like your biggest insult is that I like beans. Grow
Yeah.
up. It's time for the most wonderful time. It's time for the Chef's Kiss Hotline. It's where we take calls that have been recorded, submitted through voicemail. So if you would like to play this game with us, Thanksgiving next year or any other time of year, for general questions, advice, marriage, dating, wedding, split pea soup, rutabaga,
Mhm.
buzzword, you can call our hotline at 856-502-4816. Boop.
Or
Which
you can
thank-
call me personally at
Yeah.
443.
Yeah, you should. People would.
If you want to skip the line.
Yeah, you'll get harassed immediately, and not in like a negative way. Just like it would be like an onslaught. You can't be that available to anyone, Amiel. You got to set boundaries.
Boundaries?
I know. What are those? Okay, let's take some calls.
Hey, Alison. This is Lauren from Denver. My question's about frozen turkeys. Last year, I bought about 3 turkeys for different dinners and get-togethers and to make sure that we had leftovers. But I only ended up making 2 of them, and I've had a frozen turkey in my freezer for almost a year now. Can I cook that for this year's Friendsgiving, or have I missed out? Thank you.
I wonder if we have the same answer.
Yeah, I am curious also. I actually think
bet
we're
we
going to have
don't.
the same answer.
You do?
think- Okay, who's going first?
You go first.
I mean, it's your podcast. You should go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I would cook it.
Yeah.
Furthermore, I mean, I would defrost it and I'd be like, does it smell weird? But if it's been frozen that whole time, it's probably definitely fine.
Dude,
Definitely.
We have the same answer because I
Okay, good.
am like, I have eaten frozen meat out of my freezer that is years and years old. You know, it's like I wouldn't.
yeah.
If it's just if it this we're talking about a 1 year, and also whatever. Not all freezers are created equal.
No.
It's like
Right,
if
right,
you
right.
pull it out, if you pull it out and it's like all icy and like the like vacuum seal has like been broken for a while, and you're kind of like, then I might not serve that for like a big dinner for people that I was trying to impress. But like I would definitely eat it. You know,
But you would cook like a turkey for just you and a friend, just on a cozy Tuesday.
No, I would probably like thaw it and break it down and like do a couple different things with it. You know, when I get my free turkey from ShopRite, that's what I.
Oh yeah.
That's what I do.
Well, I mean, yeah, those pork chops I fed you last time you were over, honey, those were from 2021.
Yeah,
Those have been deep in the freeze
Dude,
for
those
2
are from
years, and they're
2011.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
freezer's an
I would say,
amazing
I mean,
thing.
2 years. Yeah, that
Yeah.
deep freezer was the best thing that's ever happened to me, and you know it. You have one.
Oh yeah.
For when we get our whole animals, a thing that we like to do. Yeah, I think it's fine. I will say, yeah, same answer though. Like with anything that's frozen and thawed, that's meat or fish related. If your freezer is one of those that like never really stays closed, things are kind of always freezing and melting and refreezing. I don't love it, but if you're like, no, that thing's been like frozen for a year, it's absolutely fine. I have a ham, it's shocking, that's been in my freezer for a year, and guess
I know,
who's
I
eating
saw
that
that.
this year? Maybe you,
Me.
Amiel.
Yeah. I did.
Okay.
That is taking up. So, I cannot believe that that's in your Brooklyn
It's
apartment.
so big. It's like
taking up
30
so much
pounds.
space. Every time I go to get
It is
like
the
every
freezer.
time for the last year I've gone to get ice from your freezer, I'm like, oh, that old chestnut
Still there.
still hanging out.
I know.
Yeah.
And like one day
Yeah.
you're going to come over and I'm going to be slicing the ham and look you in the eye and be like, don't say a word. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take our next caller.
Hey, Allison, this is Gina. I'm calling from Los Angeles, California. Last year, this is a Thanksgiving-related question. Last year, I went wild and just made my own turkey randomly on a weekend before Thanksgiving, so I was traveling for the big day. And what I realized midway through cooking a turkey, which I feel like I had done before, but I was actually using seasoning this time. I have a very, very white mother. I don't know how to treat seasoning. Like when you buy thyme or rosemary, like I don't understand, like thyme, it came with twigs. I'm pretty sure my turkey had twigs. Do you have a recommendation for a basic bitch? Hey girl, this is thyme and what we're talking about are the leaves, not the twig part. You know what I mean? Like, is there a book out there I could read? I just feel like a lot of the recipes I was following for Thanksgiving assumed a basic amount of cooking knowledge that I sorely do not possess. So any help you could offer would be great. Keep up the good work. Love your food. Love you. Okay, great. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, anytime I'm calling for rosemary or thyme, I almost never call for rosemary, but like thyme, I'll either say like, I mean, I'm almost exclusively calling for sprigs, like for like roasting or simmering or stock or braise or whatever. So I'll say like sprigs of thyme, and they're not meant to be eaten necessarily. They're meant to be fished out at the end, strained out, sort of scattered around the plate, but they're there to like infuse the broth, like infuse the thing, infuse the roasting jus pan. But like, if you are meant to use the leaves, then you kind of like, if you're watching the video, you can see this. You can like strip the leaves from the stalk and then chop those and measure. But like, also like, I'm of the school of thought where like a little twig never hurt anyone, so who cares? But if a herb grows on a stem, pick it off the stem.
Yeah. I think that's.
I don't know what book tells you that, but.
Yeah, I don't know what book tells you that either, but yeah, I mean, I think that it sounds like she's talking about something where it's like a measured quantity of the thing. So yeah, pick it off the twigs. And also it's like, you know, there's, with thyme, it's kind of like there are twigs and then there are like the sub twigs, you know? There's
What's
like,
this? Oh yeah. That
you know
are
what
like
I mean?
too
It's
tiny
like,
to pluck.
yeah. And so there are like, I think that, and maybe this is like weird advice, but like give something like give it a little nibble, you know? Like the like twigs at the base are like not nice for eating, but like when you're stripping it off and like you do end up with some like leaves attached to little like more tender stems, and that if you just chop it up is not going to be something that's going to be like
my
like
advice for
your
anyone who's
experience.
always like, should I eat this, could I eat this, is like put it in your mouth and chew it and see if you like it. Like, do I need to peel it? It's like, I don't know, eat it with the peel and be like, do I like this or hate this? I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
totally.
But yeah, and there's nothing basic about that.
Hi, Allison. This is Rachel from New York. I have a question about making a good gravy for my gluten-free friends without a roux that's not runny and tasteless. Thanks.
What's your starch replacement? Corn?
I don't think that would work. I think that you probably want to go in like cornstarch slurry direction. That's like, I don't know. I've never made a flourless gravy, but I kind of feel like what I would, like my first thought would be to like reduce your stock so that it's like delicious and concentrated and flavorful, season it, and then stir in a little bit of cornstarch slurry to give it a little bit of like thickness. So that it's like already kind of thicker because you've reduced the stock down, and then you're just kind of giving it a little bit of body or texture. But I don't know. Yeah. I've never done that before.
Me neither. I also like recently have just been like, use all-purpose cup for cup or all-purpose bobs or all-purpose whatever. That's like the equivalent that you then sort of treat like flour, because I do find like the toasting for like regular flour roux based gravy it really does give you so much flavor that like I would miss that step maybe. This year I made a brown butter gravy because I didn't make a whole turkey. I did parts, or I just did like the legs.
Gams.
And so I was like, I need to toast the flour deeply in the butter, which I'm also browning to create like many layers of flavor, because I'm not relying on like the dark, intense drippings of the bird. But if you have like the intense dark drippings of the bird plus plus stock that's been simmering, yeah, I think cornstarch might be fine for like slurry vibes.
I'm gonna say, yeah, like I would assume that a cup for product would work in that same way. I feel like that's the kind of thing that like King Arthur has on their website, to like, can you use the like cup for cup in a roux in the same way?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know what's in that stuff,
There's no telling. I'm assuming it's a mix of like gums and guars and like milled and.
Can you roux a gum? Can you guar a roux?
Will it roux? I don't know. But if it's like largely rice flour based, like rice might be a nice thickener because rice can also toast versus cornstarch, which I don't think toasts.
Rice can
so
toast.
Like rice can toast, baby. And it tastes pretty good. Unrelated, real quick before we take our next caller. When I say turkey leg to you, what do you think of? What is the shape and part of the bird that comes to mind?
When you say leg, I think the drum and the thigh together.
That's correct.
But I also know that when people are at the like Ren Fair and you say turkey leg, they're imagining just
people. Okay, Amiel, we all know I love the Ren Fair. That felt very pointed. So when I was like writing this recipe and I was like, okay, turkey leg, I talked to a turkey farmer at the farmer's market, and he was like, oh, that's a turkey quarter. And I'm like, well, how come when we talk about a chicken leg, we talk about the thigh and the drumstick? It's the full leg. How come we talk about a person, the leg is the thigh and the calf? That's the leg. In this instance, the calf being the drumstick, the thigh being the thigh. A thigh is always a thigh. A drumstick is always a drumstick. Together, they are the leg. But this man is telling me that it was a quarter. Whatever. That was just a non-sequitur. That was my question.
No, sometimes people also do refer to chicken legs in that way. They call them like chicken quarters. But like,
sure.
I know.
But a leg is a leg, a drumstick is a drumstick, a thigh is a thigh.
I agree with you.
Enough is enough.
I don't think you're wrong. But I do think like a chicken or a turkey thigh and a turkey drumstick is also just like a lot of meat,
Yeah,
like
Thanksgiving. I mean, it's not
know,
more than a 30-pound bird.
For Thanksgiving. I know, but people do be like, I think a leg is like a whole leg. It's pretty big.
Well, you know what I found today on Google is if you Google chicken leg, the drum and the thigh shows up as an image. But when you Google turkey leg, only the drumstick shows up. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I feel like I don't necessarily save all of my stress for the end of the holiday season, but it does sort of come all at once where I feel like I've done everything for the year and I'm ready to enjoy myself. But what ends up happening is then I have like anxiety about going to a party or hosting the best party or hosting the best, holiday gathering. And I will say that my therapist gets a real workout around this time of year. And therapy is something that I really believe in. And I think that somebody should have access to, regardless of their comfortability asking for it or how they're able to, find it, which can be often the toughest part about therapy is finding the therapist. So if you're thinking about therapy or you just don't know where to start, but this has maybe have you considering maybe I should talk to somebody, then you can give BetterHelp a try. And the nice thing is that it's entirely online. It's flexible. It's meant for your schedule. You can find the person that you want to talk to. There's a number of therapists available. So it's kind of like dating. You meet with a few people and you find who clicks with you. So to find your bright spot this season, get BetterHelp. And you can visit betterhelp.com/Alison Roman today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Alison Roman. I started drinking AG1 because as a person who lives their life without much routine, I was feeling like I needed at least one thing to sort of anchor me in terms of like not being able to eat well on the daily or exercise or sleep enough. Basically, take care of myself. And that's because AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. one of my best friends, Michael, swore by this stuff. And then another one of my friends, Eva, also swore by it. And I was like, okay, well, these are people that I also trust. And they're definitely not trying to sell me anything. And I feel like they, at the time, were living a similar lifestyle as me. And they were, basically like, this is the only thing that's helped my digestion, my energy, my skin, my hair. And I thought, okay, well, I should do something. Like, I should be a little more proactive. So I'm going to give it a try. And so if you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. And honestly, those travel packs are how I mostly consume AG1 because they're pre-portioned. They're in these little cute envelopes and I can bring them with me wherever. So there's kind of no excuse not to drink it. Go to drinkag1.com/Roman. That's drinkag1.com/Roman. Justice for the turkey leg. Okay, next caller.
Hi, this is Shannon. I'm from San Francisco, and I would love to know your opinion on raw cranberry relish for Thanksgiving or the traditional gloppy, syrupy, traditional cranberry relish. I think I know your answer, but thanks so much.
She hates it. That was exactly how she was really leading the witness there.
Yeah, seriously.
That's when I talk to Max and I'm like, hey, what do you want to do tonight? Do you want to go all the way to the West Village and meet so-and-so for drinks and then have to take a car back home later and it's raining, all this stuff. I'm or do you want to stay in and get Han Dynasty? I'm offering two things, but there's one that I'm clearly more into that
Yeah.
I'm let's do that.
So where do you stand on cranberry relish? Do you like the awesome raw kind or the shitty, gross, disgusting, gloopy kind?
Yeah, I'm picking
just wondering.
option C. I'm picking option C, which is that I like the cooked kind that is not too sweet. That is acidic, bright, tangy, has texture. I also like as option D that and a can of Ocean Spray.
Yeah, I'm in the both territory. My mom makes that is one of her Thanksgiving things is a raw cranberry relish, which is great, and it's got oranges and apples and some nuts even in it.
Like a haroset almost.
It's kind of it's kind of like a Goyish haroset. And
is she blitzing raw cranberries?
Yeah. In the smallest
style?
food processor. She's got she has a regular size food processor, but she uses this 40-year-old Oster 2-cup thing that she and she makes a huge batch. It's awesome. Gina, shout out to Gina. She doesn't
love Gina.
listen to a podcast. But so we always have that, and then my dad insists on a cooked also, which sometimes is just a can and sometimes is just a really simple cooked. But I think they're just different things. You don't want the raw relish for sandwiches the next day. You know what I mean?
No.
Not that that's
it can also be too astringent. No, it's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, very different.
I made mine this year with just cranberries and honey. I did a bottle of honey and 2 bags of cranberry sauce or cranberries, and I boiled them together, and they're perfect and delicious. Probably, I would reckon a touch tart for some people. So I'm it's also makes a full quart because I was obsessed with using the whole bear of honey as a unit of measurement. I don't know, but also
those bears come in different sizes too.
They're mostly 12 ounces though across the board. Just saying. But also, even if it's 8, if it's 8 ounces, use 1 bag, whatever. All TBD. Point being is that you could a bag of cranberries, a bottle of honey or half bottle of honey, and boil it. That's great. You can add your fresh ginger, you can add your orange juice, you can add your clementines, whatever. But to me, I found that to be a really nice alternative to just cranberry flavor with sugar. That was just leaning sweet. The honey gave I also use a crazy tasting honey. Anyway, enough about me and my cranberries. Next caller.
Hi, Allison. My name is Sarah Keene, and I'm calling from Palisade, Colorado. Thank you so much for taking my question. It is a query that I have every year and still have not figured out. I am looking for the perfect salad for my Thanksgiving spread. My family really loves to stick to traditions, the heavy gravies, the stuffings, the green beans, all of that goodness. And I'm always looking for something to balance it out. So I want something that kind of showcases fall flavors, but isn't too heavy and adds something still exciting to our table. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm very curious to know where you're going with this, Alison.
Perfect salad. Well, I mean, I'm now plugging my most recent menu because that's where I'm at right now. Like in my mind right now, I have made for me this year a great menu that speaks to how I want to be eating. And there's like slight variation year to year, but it's like mostly there's always category salad. And sometimes it's really fruit based. Sometimes it's like pure leaves. Sometimes it's all fennel. This year I did like, probably what I think is like the best version, the best version yet. Oh my God. She said it, folks. She said it. Because while allergic to the phrase fall flavors, I did find myself craving fall flavors.
Some fresh fall flavors?
I was craving the fresh fall flavors. Yeah. So what I did was also, I feel like, and you maybe do this too, like sometimes when you're like recipe developing, it's sort of arbitrary in that like, you're like, oh, I have a bottle of honey here, so I'm going to use that. Or like, I have this on the counter, I'm going to use that. Like sometimes things are born from like instinct or necessity or convenience. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted like some version of like an apple salad because I wanted because I'm not a cranberry relish person, I was missing like a crunchy, acidic, lightly sweet moment. So I did like apples, shaved fennel, some really nice like radicchio, Treviso, chicory situation, and then dressed that in sherry vinegar, salt, pepper, little olive oil, lots of herbs. I had tarragon, but you could use like tarragon, dill, chive, parsley, whatever. It's like herby. And then the fall flavors come at you hard here. I finely chopped some pecans, toasted them in a skillet. And then as they're toasted, I added honey to kind of like reduce slightly. And it's like a tiny skillet. Some fennel seed, more salt and pepper. And it's like this sort of like faux candy. There's like no real technique. Like you don't need to like cook it for that long. It's kind of just like pecans and honey, but it's more pecan than honey. So they're like really sticky. But like toasted fennel, pecan, honey, like little clumpy mixture, like tossed in through the salad. Awesome. So delicious. I like was eating the pecan honey thing like with a spoon, like it was cereal.
That sounds really good. I mean, that's also like, that is like a salad with presence, you know? That is like that is like a salad that is a salad that is a course, you know.
Yeah,
like
that stands on its own.
That stands on its own. I feel like that sounds like a delicious salad, and it sounds like what our caller is looking for is something that is like maybe she's in charge of the salad and isn't going to just show up with like, you know, a bag of greens. I feel like if the salad is your thing, that sounds like a perfect salad to bring to Thanksgiving or to, you know, kind of if you're looking to dress to impress. I feel like you can also like, I love the sound of fresh herbs and like one good green, you know, because there's so much like woody herb flavor throughout the meal. I feel like some herbs and some nice greens and a little lemon juice and salt and pepper and olive oil is also totally acceptable. If, you know,
100%.
If she's actually the person who's hosting and making everything else and is like, then I feel like you get a pass on the salad and like some
1,000%.
tasty greens, really simple dressing.
But it has to be there. Yes. My best friend, Kate, she's always like, oh, we don't believe in salad and Thanksgiving. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you don't believe in salad.
I can't believe this is still a conversation we're having in this year of our Lord 2023. Like you need to have a salad at your Thanksgiving.
Mayersons, if you're listening, give it a try. I think you're going to love, you're salad people. You like salad. Like, so why not on this day? And to your point, Amiel, if I'm totally honest, I think, you know, the chicories, the pecan, the honey, it's an amazing salad. It's like a composed thing. It's great for vegetarians. It's vegan, blah, blah, blah. But in all honesty, I'm probably doing the bowl of greens with the picked tarragon, dill, lemon, salt, pepper, olive oil, call it a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's the least you can do. You need it.
And it just depends on what's on your list. I don't think you need to have like if you're making everything else, you don't need a separate shopping list, prep list for salad. You know, you get a pass.
Correct.
But yes, you need something raw, crunchy.
Yeah.
Like cold, delicious, because there's just so much going on. Otherwise you're just, even if you only eat one bite, you know?
And you'll be
Like,
so glad it's there. It's like, oh, that's actually really nice. Well, like a nice respite.
yeah, exactly.
We are once again asking you to use salad. Put salad on your Thanksgiving table. Sorry, go ahead. Next caller.
Hi, Allison. My name is Kevin. I live in Los Angeles via Chicago. And my Thanksgiving themed question for you is basically how to elevate my mashed potatoes and make them a little less, for lack of a better term, Midwest. I've got my turkey dialed in. The potatoes I make usually taste good enough. They just feel very heavy and don't seem to kind of go with everything else. So, yeah, I was just looking for a way to kind of elevate that experience. Let me know. Thanks.
Everyone's always trying to elevate.
I wish I knew more about what was wrong with his mashed potatoes.
Me too.
Because
I'm guessing cheese. I'm guessing it's like mostly potato, a thing of heavy cream, maybe some cheese, a stick of butter, mashing it, calling it a day.
cheese. Interesting.
I don't know. He said very Midwest, so I'm using context clues there.
Well, he's also sounds like it's heavy, you know? So I'm like,
right, which is so I'm hearing cheese. I'm hearing white cheddar. I'm hearing
it's giving cheese.
Sour cream. I'm hearing excessive dairy. In my experience, my secret ingredient I can't take myself seriously and say those two words combined. But my secret ingredient for potatoes is buttermilk. And I did this last year or the year before, and guess what? Doing it again this year. And buttermilk is a naturally low fat product, and that's not why I'm using it. But I will say it gives you viscosity, it gives you acidity, it gives you a lightness, and it gives you dairy full flavor without the dairy full texture, right? And so in addition to heavy cream, instead of something like milk, which is, I'd say it goes buttermilk, milk, heavy cream in the spectrum of, viscosity, heaviness. So for me, the heavy cream is giving you flavor and fat, and the buttermilk is giving you like viscosity and tang. And the two of them combined give you like everything you want and more without them feeling especially heavy. I think if your mashed potatoes are feeling heavy, they're also probably very dense and they probably need more liquid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that like, as far as like the elevating part of this, I think that like acidity from some kind of like sour dairy product is going to go a long way. Whether that's buttermilk, which I think is a great addition, or like sour cream, even though it is like thick and rich, like something tart and tangy is going to like make them, even if they are still rich and still have a lot of like the fat that you're looking for, it'll make it all like pop a little bit more. Also, and this is maybe controversial, but
go on, Amiel.
I also do think like the liquid, like potatoes being dry, like is a huge problem. And like if you've like added all of the like dairy that you're interested in adding, a little bit of, I sometimes think that people like over dry their potatoes after they're boiled, and like you can add a splash of that cooking liquid if you want to like loosen.
Who's not drying their potatoes?
Miss Alison Roman.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's I aspire to having a special segment on the show called "Yeah, I'm not doing that," and I'm not doing that. I'm not drying my potato. But to your point, like if you're cooking your potato in salted water and there's starch in the water, like it's like pasta water in my mind, and like it shouldn't be the enemy. I don't know where we went down that path. Like we're not making gnocchi. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, most people are, I think that you can just save a little bit of that water. If you've just, dumped all of your potatoes through a colander or whatever, before you do that, just save like a few cups of that water. Because you might want to add it later on if you're just like, we don't want more fat, but we just want a little more lubrication.
Yeah. You need a little bit more liquid. I feel like in my years of recipe testing, other people's recipes, like whatever, I definitely feel like something came across the desk where I was adding like vegetable broth or chicken broth to my mashed potatoes. I would never do that, but I could see that being like, I ate a boiled potato the other day that I was making for mashed potatoes, and I was like, damn, this is like fluffy and creamy without me doing anything to it. Like potatoes are magical food. And crushed and like stirred in with some like chicken broth and vegan butter. That would make a delicious vegan mashed potato, and it would be really, really light and beautiful.
The chicken broth would make it.
I won't be doing that.
Yeah.
I'm indulging in the dairy lifestyle these days, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I also do think if you're looking for like one really easy way to like take the potatoes, like just make them feel a little bit more sophisticated, is use some good potatoes. Like if you can like get to a farmer's market and get like a nice fancy potato, they do be tasting good.
Hi, Allison. This is Elaine Golan from Brooklyn. I'm looking for exciting Thanksgiving ideas that will satisfy the vegan half of my family while also making the non-vegan half of the family, particularly my parents, feel like they're still having a traditional Thanksgiving. Please help us avoid family wars. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my answer for this is my answer for anything that's dietary restriction related, which is I think it's like the worst thing that you can do is like upend your own menu planning. It's your Thanksgiving, you're hosting. What do you want to eat? What do you want to cook? That's to like be like, okay, there's 2 versions of this. There's 3 versions of that. Like this one is gluten free. It's like, okay, enough. I find the easiest way to be like, pick dishes that like are inherently without trying accommodating to a variety of diets. So like your green beans, they can be very easily vegan, very easily gluten-free. Your squash, your carrot, your whatever can easily be dairy-free. It can easily be gluten-free. Your stuffing, I'm sorry, I'm not making you a stuffing with gluten-free bread or without butter. I'm just not.
Right.
Although I guess you can make stuffing with butter substitute. But we've come a long way with butter substitutes especially, and other like dairy-free substitutes, i.e. with sour cream, yogurt.
Yeah.
So when you can, I sort of default to like, okay, well, this is a dish made with only olive oil. Like it doesn't really need the butter. There's butter plenty elsewhere. Certain things I'm like, the butter makes it, and I'm not gonna fold.
Yeah. I wouldn't don't make a less than version of anything that's on the table. Think of it as a way to like, for all of those things that are delicious without animal products, like make them like emphatically vegan. And, I guess that's the thing that's weird to me is like, you don't get to decide to be vegan and then be like, and I also want awesome stuffing, or I also want like, really creamy mashed potatoes, because your mashed potatoes are going to like taste like coconut or something. Like, it's just going to be like weird. And what you really want is for the things that are delicious vegan to be vegan, and like, give your parents what they want. And like the thing is, like, if you have enough delicious sides that are like vegetable sides that are vegan, it's like that's just like going to like a modern restaurant. You're like, oh, like a bunch of vegetables like that make a meal. Like, I would say like the one thing is like maybe make a second kind of potato. Make like a crispy potato also that you've like boiled potatoes in really salty water. You crisp them in some olive oil. Like, that'll be delicious. The like non-vegans will also take that potato as well, and then you just got like two flavor potatoes. But
this year for home movies, Thanksgiving was the first year I had a vegan in attendance, and delighted to report that they were able to eat several things on the table. I did make 2 different versions of the squash because it was 1 out of 9 people, and I felt really passionately about the way that the butter cooks the squash with the brown sugar, and like it's like forever roasted squash. Like, it roasts as long as the turkey, which is like 3.5 hours, and it's just so wonderful with the butter. And without the butter, it's more like a good vegetable side, right?
Right.
Like, I mostly cook with olive oil in my everyday. That's like, I only really cook with butter at Thanksgiving, kind of. But to me, it has such a distinct flavor that I was like, well, I'm not willing to compromise, but it's just as easy for me to set some of the squash aside, throw some olive oil on it, brown sugar, sage leaves, throw that in the oven too. And that is at no cost to me.
Right.
I'm not like making a separate pan of it's not that wild. But I think like those types of small gestures are really appreciated. but also take it easy.
Hi, Allison. This is Alice. I'm calling from New York City, and my Thanksgiving question is about dessert. So say, hypothetically, someone doesn't like pie or baked fruit. What could be something that's fun and exciting and uplifting post-Thanksgiving meal that's not like a heavy pumpkin cake or something that's just cheery and a little sweet taste to end your meal. If you have any ideas, please do share. Thanks.
I want to hear Amiel's answer because I feel like I'm like the obvious person to ask.
They don't like pie. They don't want like a cake. It sounds like what they're asking for is something like, but then they're asking for something that's like a little more like uplifting. Or
it sounds like what they're asking for is permission to not serve dessert, which granted.
Which I think is totally fine. And I think you can like put out some nice citrus and like call it, I think that some people are really attached to the dessert part of Thanksgiving. If this caller is hosting, it's like, you do you. If like somebody's like so outraged by that idea and they want to bring a pie and people can eat pie, fine. But I think you have permission to just be like, I'm going to set out some bars of chocolate and some clementines, and
I have some vanilla
dessert.
ice cream in the freezer.
Right. Yeah, that's like, I was going to say like ice cream or something like that, but I'm like, is that not uplifting? That's like,
ice cream uplifts me every day.
Sure does.
I'm constantly uplifted by ice cream. I feel like my answer is also always like either caffeine or alcohol related, which isn't like awesome advice depending on who you are and your lifestyle. But I like freezing, going to grab like 2 iced coffees from the wherever, freezing them, scraping them, serving them with like vanilla ice cream, like a little frozen affogato moment, something that feels like festive, like you did something, or like just serving Amaro. You know what I mean? Like being like, this is what we're having. We're having a little Amaro, some like grapes, like Viva Italia, If I'm at a restaurant, the thing that I always have room for is like little baby portions of panna cotta, or like little puddings. Again, that's like ice cream. It's like, I want like a little bowl of sweetened dairy is what I want. That uplifts me. But
I was going to like
hard with space.
You and I are both lovers of pudding. And I feel like, to me, something like that, like,
boy, howdy.
I don't need a lot. There's so much texture and so much like stuff going on in Thanksgiving that something like really, like, a few bites of like a really delicious pudding or something like that feels like actually what I need, rather than like 5 small slices of pie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So even if it is like rich, sometimes like a small amount of something very rich is better than a lot of something that is less rich, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Most of my dessert consumption follows that rule, where I'm like, I want like something intense and a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Next caller.
Hi, Allison and guest. My name is Holly. I'm from North Carolina, and my husband and I are traveling for Thanksgiving by car. It's going to be like a 7-hour drive, and we probably won't arrive until that morning. And I'd love to bring a dish with us so that we don't have to scramble once we get there. But I don't know what the best dish is to prepare in North Carolina and then drive 7 hours and then just heat up the day of Thanksgiving. Do you have any suggestions? Thank you. Bye.
Well, 7 hours is going to mean 9 hours, and you know it. So let's assume 10. Let's assume 10 hours in the car.
And assuming that there's
I feel like you answered this previously.
Which thing?
Oh, when you're like, just make the food there. When you were like, why are people trying to always bring something? But
I think that you can also, like, there are certain dishes where, like, think about it this way: you're not making the whole thing, but you can get everything ready so that all I need is like 15 minutes to put this together in the kitchen.
So what would you bring if you were assuming 10 hours in the car?
I mean, this is like a weird thing that comes to mind if you want like a thing to just bring with you fully finished and made. It's like some braised greens. because then you can just like pack that in a, you know, like some really nice braised greens, like, you know, kale, collards, blah, blah, blah. Maybe throw some herbs into, and, you know, braise them so they're nice and tender, and then pack those into just like plastic quart containers, and you can keep that in a little cooler. It's like kind of compact, but like it, you know, has nice impact. I would go for that rather than something that's like a casserole that you have to have like.
You would not go for casserole.
I don't think so, just because it feels like you need more cooler for that, or like it's just like jangling around. Like
I hate
that
the word casserole. It feels disgusting in the mouth.
Yeah, so I feel like, or just like bring the stuff. You know, it's like thinking about the salad that you were describing. Like all of those things can be like done ahead and be like ready. You know, it's like your chicories can be washed, your like fruit can be sliced, your like nuts can be toasted and made delicious, and then all you have to do when you get there is actually like compose the salad. So like I think a more ambitious salad that's already prepped and like ready to be assembled, or something like a braised green or something like that, where it's just like it's fully cooked, it's really compact, and then can just be heated up when you get there.
I agree. I don't know why, but I'm so married to green bean at Thanksgiving. It's like, I don't even think they're like especially in season, although there are some really nice haricot vert around right now, and we're getting close. But it's like, I don't know. I just can't think of another green vegetable that I want other than like a deep, like collard green or like a stewed green in that way. So I could see that. But yeah, no one's being like, oh, you're hosting. Don't worry, I got the gravy that I'm bringing from 10 hours away. So I think it's also better to like ask your host, like, what can I bring? And sometimes the answer can be like, I'm bringing the cranberry sauce. And it can be like, or I'm bringing all the wine, or I'm bringing Amaro for dessert, or I'm bringing seltzer water. Like you can also treat it like you're going to someone's house for dinner. And so asking what can I bring, practically speaking. But yeah, if they're like, bring a vegetable side, bring a side, assume not the stuffing, assume not the mashed potato, and then be like, cool, I'm going to bring roasted squash that I'm going to like just pop in the oven for like an extra 20 when it's time to eat or something like that. Right. And don't worry about like bringing a cooler or packing it nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think that all makes good sense.
Hi, Allison. This is Abby from Seattle. And I'm calling because Thanksgiving is almost upon us, which means that we as a country are about to be facing an epidemic of overcooked turkey. And I'm wondering if there's anything to be done with overcooked meat of any kind. Can you put it in a soup? Can you turn it into jerky? I don't know. Thanks.
DIY jerky. No one's doing that.
Nobody's doing that.
That's wild style.
I
guess you could.
As far, I mean, I guess like when people are talking about overcooked turkey, they're really just talking about overcooked breast meat, right?
Probably. Although I've had some like bad thighs and bad like drumstick, like where it's like cooked for too long and not slow enough. So then it's like dry and shreddy or something.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I mean, I feel like all the dark meat can totally go into soup or whatever. That feels like easy.
Sure.
The things that I'm going to describe now are things that you're not going to like. But I do think
I can't wait to hear.
Wait, do you not like chicken salad? Right. So you don't love mayonnaise.
I don't. But I like chicken turned into a salad. I don't like chicken salad.
Right. Yes. Well, I think that if you like chicken salad, you can make turkey salad, and like the mayonnaise goes a long way to kind of covering up some of that. It sure does go a
long way, doesn't it, Amiel?
I also think if you like cut up the meat and like reheat it in gravy and like eat that as like a kind of like chicken a la king sort of situation.
What's
like
chicken
over
a la
some
king?
It's I grew up with creamed chicken, which is basically just like a white cream gravy, and then with like leftover like oven stuff or roaster meat like stirred into that and like served over toast. It's pretty good.
Oven
very
stuff or
crispy,
roaster, barely newer. Okay. That sounds good. I think, yeah, like any liquid is your friend here. So like, I mean, I'm going pot pie every year. It doesn't matter. Pot pie, it's all going into a pot pie. You can
like
use the gravy. You don't even have to make a roux. We're going pot pie.
So
we're going
like
pozole.
that.
We're doing like turkey, bean, chili. We're doing... You think it's weird that I like pot pie?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
it's a perfect food. It's everything.
It's like all of the things you don't like. It's like really creamy and wet. It's crispy gone soggy.
No, it's still crispy. It never gets soggy. Mine never gets soggy.
What? Oh, because you bake the crust separately and just like
no,
eat
because
those,
I bake
like,
it properly and for long enough, and so it gets really crusty and crispy and brown, and it stays crispy, crunchy, brown. You can tap on it. You can tap on it, and it makes a sound because it's so crunchy and it stays crunchy.
I think you're living in a fantasy world with this one.
No, that's true. And I made one the other day with my turkey leftovers because I have so much fucking turkey, and it was so phenomenal. And it was actually it was vegan because I was wanting to try the Dufour plant-based puff pastry.
Oh, how is it?
To see if it was as good or comparable to the butter, and I'm here to report that it is. Is excellent product.
Amazing.
Not sponsored.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
I loved it.
Wow.
It doesn't have as much salt as the butter version, but it was very, very crispy, very, very flaky. I texted Nick Perkins immediately. I was like, bro, have you heard of this dairy-free? Because he's a chef, but doesn't do dairy.
And he's afflicted.
I know. Anyway, but yeah, I think like liquid soups, stews, don't do jerky at home.
Don't do that. No.
Don't do that.
Hello, my name is Will from Baltimore. First time, long time. And my question is, how many MGs is too many MGs for Thanksgiving dinner for the family? I'll hang up and listen.
What did he end that call with? How many MGs? I'm assuming he means milligrams. Is he talking THC?
Is he talking about
what's going on here?
Oh, my brother from
I don't know,
Baltimore.
Amiel, you're from Baltimore. Is that Baltimore slang or something?
I do not know. I assume he's talking about like
2.5 and below. If you're me,
he's talking about
2.5 is almost 2.5 mgs is almost too much for me anyway.
There is, I mean, whatever. I have a long-standing and evolving relationship with cannabis products.
We're always listening. We're always learning.
We're always listening. We're always learning, and the idea of being high on Thanksgiving makes me so anxious.
Sounds like
so I think that if you're a person for whom that works as like if you're like stressed about Thanksgiving, being around family, and it like helps you to like mellow out and like
a family pet who travels and needs
I mean then I would say like 5, but for me that would just make me that would not solve any of my problems.
Yeah, or maybe like wait to hit the MGs after you've hit the turkey. Like you want to be like generally present, and then you can decide how not present you want to be. Maybe after dinner. Although, like, do I sound like a narc? Like, I don't want to tell you how to live your life.
Like, get high if you want to get high.
10 MGs. I don't know. If it were talking MGs of Xanax, 5. 5 MGs is a good amount.
The answer is just 5, no matter what. Whatever you're talking about.
Let it wash
5.
over you. Yeah. Just let it, yeah, I don't know. But I'm not the right person to ask about cannabis.
Yeah, nor am I really.
All right. Okay, so I think that is it for our questions. I love that that's the one we ended on. I hope that we answered the MGs question correct, because if we're talking different types of things, then 5 MGs of one is different than 5 MGs of another.
Or if he's talking about milligrams of salt for the dry brine, then...
And we're way off.
Then we're way off.
Yeah. This is a family show. Last time, someone was offended by an image in Sweet Enough because it was like a man in swimming shorts, and like they showed it to their 12-year-old and they were like aghast. And I was like, when did anyone think that I was like making family content? Like, I don't know. Anyway, weed is legal in most states, so everybody calm down. Okay, well, Amiel, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you are a busy family man. Not that that's your own, you also have a full-time job, but I don't mean to, pigeonhole you as a father. But I'm so excited that this is your first Thanksgiving with your new baby. And
me too.
It's going to be so special. It's going to be really beautiful. I know that you're going to one day Sonny's going to talk about his dad's potatoes the way that you talk about Andy's. And I think that's really sweet.
Okay, here's hoping. Thanks for having me, Alison. This is super fun.
Of course.
This episode is brought to you by Maker's Mark. Solicited Advice is hosted by me, Alison Roman. Our podcast is produced by Jennifer Sullivan with the help of Elena Rodriguez Villa. Technical production and editing is handled by Red Rock Music, and our theme music was created by Joseph Monroe. And for questions, sponsorship inquiries, or anything else, please visit us at AlisonERoman.com/podcast.